Welcome to the 2023-2024 school year. I wanted to provide some reminders and refreshers about yard duty supervision as we start the new school year. Number one, supervision is critical. Kids having a happy, healthy recess and lunchtime is really important to their success in the classroom. So you as a team are really, really important for our students and classrooms. Number one, I'm going to share something I shared with teachers this year as we kicked off the school year. Haim Janot was a school psychologist and therapist. He died in the early 70s, but he really developed a lot of the theories we currently use for supporting students. And you may use some of these at home if you have kids or grandkids. We identify the behavior, not the child. Like the room is messy, not you're messy. We don't ignore their emotions. I see how you're feeling right now. I'd be angry also. We allow kids to do as much for themselves as we possibly can. So this quote I'm going to share with you is something I believe to the core of my being as an educator, and I want to share it with you as we start the year. And it has a lot to do with weather. So I've come to the frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element. It is my personal approach that creates the climate. It's my daily mood that makes the weather. I possess tremendous power to make life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or humor, hurt or heal. In all situations, it's my response that decides whether a crisis is escalated or de-escalated, and a person is humanized or dehumanized. If we treat people as they are, we make them worse. If we treat people as they ought to be, we help them become what they're capable of becoming. I told teachers very candidly, I've said some hurtful things to students, and I've had some poor interactions with adults. And I know that by coming back around and apologizing or having that conversation over again, I can humanize that interaction. I can make things joyous again. And none of us are perfect, but every day we try to do better. And I believe that individually, we bring our own weather to school, whether your weather is cloudy, whether your weather is sunny. And collectively, we make this climate that is Meadow School. And we have a beautiful climate here. Kids are excited to come to school. Staff want to be here. And so this, I think, quote is meant to really empower. So here are the takeaways. Our forecast for 2023-2024 is sunny and mild, because that's how I like it, sunny and mild. The big idea, and this poem is posted in the staff room if you'd like to read it. It's not a poem, it's a quote, excuse me. But I think it's about our personal approaches and our daily moods and the power that we have as adults that work with children. So I want to leave you with that as we start the year. And let's get into some yard supervision questions. So PBIS is something that we kicked off officially last year. You all were part of this in using hawk carts and helping with behavior expectations and even some expectation stations. So we established what we expect students to do. We teach it explicitly. We have some reinforcers, that's our hawk cart. And then we give them a chance to do it over again if they're not doing it correctly. So those are kind of the big ideas. It's a system. It's not a curriculum or a thing. It's a way of approaching kid behavior. This is a really, really complicated triangle, but what it says in a nutshell is that these reinforcers that we use, the positive expectations for behavior, is that big green base, the base that everyone needs at school to be successful. And then as we move up the base, we have other kinds of supports that get more specific and more intervention-based for student behavior. And so when we talk about PBIS and things like hawk carts and behavior expectations, we're in that big green zone of all the kids. And so you're a big part of that. First, we establish expectations. Chris Farua is running off for you all of the behavior expectations. We try to write them all in the positive so the kids know what we want rather than don't do this and none of that. We try not to have the list too long, so each category is about 3 to 5. And the overarching concept in all areas of school is safe, responsible, respectful. Really easy to remember. This is an example of one of the areas expectations. I'm committing to doing a better job of having these posted in the space. So you don't have to dig through your fanny pack. You can just reference the wall where it's hanging. So teachers are going to be teaching during these first few days of school, bathroom, lunch and snack, hallway walking, and drop off and pick up at the front of school. So they're going to be taking care of that very explicitly. Here's what you do. And then we as a team will talk about including some of you in some reinforcers as the year goes by, especially when we get back from breaks. That's a good time to reinforce expectations. And then we're talking about an area. We try to be in that area when we're teaching it. And every single person on campus knows what these expectations are. The positive reinforcement we use here at school are hawk hearts. It's a little bit tricky with our TKs and Ks. They don't understand it completely, but the goal would be to acknowledge 4 behaviors to every 1 behavior you redirect. So you're really pouring on the honey. The hawk hearts get reinforced in the classroom. We felt last year it was important that teachers have that carrot for what a payoff is for their students, because 7-year-olds are motivated by different things than 11-year-olds. So the hawk hearts funnel into the classroom. Do not allow them to ask for a hawk heart, please. Notice something good happening and then giving them the hawk heart, because we want that extrinsic, the internal hawk heart, to become an internal motivation, not just live on the piece of paper. Restorative consequences. So rather than I'm so guilty of this. Why are you running? I don't actually care why they're running. I want them to show me what they're supposed to be doing. Please stop. What should you be doing right now? Show me you can do it. The kids know, right? And when I start with that, what are you doing? I'm already getting myself in a place of frustration, right? So the bathroom, for example, I hear some shouting in the bathroom. Excuse me, what should you be doing? Not shouting. Great. Show me that you can talk in normal voice in the bathroom. So I'm not getting aggravated and enraged and, escalated, and they're doing now what I want. Try to redirect privately. Try to pour on the honey so we get more of that, right? The 2-minute rule is this. If you're out supervising and a student interaction is taking more than 2 minutes to redirect, get some help. Send them to me, walkie the office, because supervising is about having eyes on all of the students. And when you're spending too much time with one, it upsets the supervision. Now, sometimes you can be interacting with one and still have your gaze on the others, but I leave that to you. But the 2-minute rule is a pretty good one. Speaking of supervision, Chris Ferrua has put this beautiful map in your box to show when you're out on yard duty, what areas of the yard you're in charge of. So the blue person's got the blue areas, pink person has pink, red has red. Frequent adult proximity. You need to be moving, right? Find yourself a little figure 8 path or a little perimeter path. When you're nearby, they're behaving better, for sure. Constantly moving and scanning with your eyes. Acknowledging that positive behavior along the way can be with the hawk heart, can also be verbal that you're noticing. Again, correcting the negative with a, what's the expectation? Please show me. Using the walkie when you need help or communicating with one another out there. A big change this year, we're going to try to have the field open more. So the person that's on the playground is also deciding if the field is open. I haven't quite figured out what that system will look like. So if you have some thoughts, I'd love to hear them. Has to do with it being too damp in the morning, any other kinds of ideas. And then we'll decide, how much of the field is open. It's a really large area. But that's something we're working toward this year, especially, is having kids out on the grass. What's next? Snack and lunch. We're going to try something a little different this year. As you can see on this example, Hilda is supervising our 1st graders. Shyla is supervising our 2nd graders, and Geneva's got 3rd grade. And the idea here is that you have tables that are yours, students that are yours, relationships to build, habits to notice and help them mitigate, right? If 2 friends really shouldn't be sitting together, you're going to get to know that really well and say, is this a good idea? Let's move one of you. And then as lunch begins to wrap up, we have 3 sets of garbages out there. And so Hilda will have hers. So when she's ready to dismiss her 1st graders with garbage, she can send them to her garbage cans. And then Shyla's got her set and Geneva's got her set. So we're dividing up the students. You've got your couple of tables that you're watching. We'll still use our cones. The cone system works really, really well. But we're going to try this assigned supervisor for snack and lunch. If at some point you need a break from your grade, we can talk about switching around, but I'd really like to give this a try. PlayWorks. So we did some professional development. You see us here, a whole morning of cooperative games, conflict resolution. We had a super fun time. So our plan to roll out some of these PlayWork games looks like this. We're going to introduce one new game a month. And then the first task will be teachers teaching the game during their PE with students for the first week. Week 2, that game will come out to recess and lunch. So what will end up in your box is that timeline, which week is week 1, which week is week 2, any materials that are needed for the game, and then the directions for the game. So the students will have had practice playing it by the time it gets out to you on the yard. So this is our plan so far. It's not launching in the first couple of weeks, but this will be coming. So we're excited to introduce some different games, games that don't have kids out and waiting too long, those kinds of things. So stay tuned for that. And I think that wraps it up. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing year. If you have any questions about any of this, please let me know. I like us all to be on the same page. It really helps in communication, it helps our students, and it makes our jobs more pleasant. Thanks.